I don't think you can have any more fun with your pants on. Or can you? Guys, I was totally wrong about everything. So this is it, the ultimate fun machine for the road, the 991 generation Porsche GT3. The recipe? You take a 911 Carrera and first put it on a diet. Then you add bigger air inlets for better cooling, a front splitter for more downforce and a more efficient airflow. You need stickier, wider Michelin Sport Cup 2 tires for more grip. A bigger wing which will add more downforce than most of its owners will ever need. A lowered suspension with a wider front axle and even more air inlets. A stronger, high-revving naturally aspirated engine that revs up to 9,000 RPM. And probably the biggest brakes you can find on a road car to stop all that craziness. All this combined makes the GT3 a legacy and causes excitement under car enthusiasts that are lucky enough to spot one on the road. Now, I said earlier that driving the 991 Carrera S is the most fun you could have with your pants on. As it turns out, I was completely wrong. If it was possible, I'd recall that statement now. But you know what they say, once it's online, it's online. These cars might share the color, shape and interior, but let me tell you, these two couldn't be more different from each other. So this is it, the 991 GT3. Let me tell you, this is so much crazier than a regular Carrera S. It's unbelievable. We have 475 horsepower out of a naturally aspirated 6-cylinder boxer engine, 3.8 liters. 0 to 60 time is 3.2 seconds and a top speed of 195 miles per hour, if I'm not mistaken. But this car is not about its numbers or speeds. This car is about pure driving joy. It's so much fun to drive. It's a race car for the street. Let's go check it out. So here we are in the 991 GT3. It looks very much like a regular 911 Carrera. And for the first time, we have a Pdk transmission. And this car, as you probably know already, comes only with a Pdk. So we only have two pedals down here. We have our shift pedals here. And what I like very much, the way they made the manual function up here, is that you push forward to shift down and you pull to shift up. This is the way it is in a race car. And this is the only way it should be done, in my opinion. And I'm glad that Porsche finally acknowledged that and put it like this in the GT3. In addition, there's no more Sport button or Sport Plus button in this car, which is fantastic. A GT3 should always be in its sharpest mode. I don't want to press a Sport button every time I get in. I always want the same full amount of power and full aggressiveness of the engine. The only thing I have here is a Pdk Sport button, which gives you a little jerk when shifting in manual mode, and of course the automatic mode will be more sporty like. So if you're on a racetrack and drive an automatic, put the Pdk into sport. We can put the dampening into hard, into the stiff mode, which is only used on a track because it is very, very stiff. And of course we have our exhaust valve button, which doesn't work right now because we have the engine turned off, which opens the exhaust flaps at a lower RPM. And we have the usual ESC off and ESC and traction control off, two-step system. But this is pretty much it. And yeah, it's a fantastic usual Porsche cabin. Enough talking now, let's go for a ride. I know the GT3 RS is out already, and you know, you cannot even buy this car anymore, but it's still so worth to review this car. Now, when I first got into this car, I was a little bit sad, you know, I was missing the manual transmission. But the Pdk, you know, it's phenomenal. Of course, it takes one sensation away. I mean, the manual gear change is something that transmits, you know, pure racing inspired driving. But, you know, every Formula 1 car shifts like this. The sound, unbelievable. At 3,500 RPM, the flaps open in the back. And then you can really hear this car. What a nice soundtrack. And if you rev it up to 9,000, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is insane. The car just handles so well. The rear steering of 3 degrees of angle is very helpful. Just makes the whole car a lot more stable. And this car isn't as fast as a 991 Turbo S in terms of acceleration. But you get there, you know, you get up to 200 really quickly. It's definitely fast enough. The GT3 doesn't have a hydraulic steering rack anymore, it's an electric steering rack. It doesn't feel as good as the hydraulic one, obviously, but for an electric supported steering rack, it's pretty good. Now, compared to the 991 Carrera S we also tested, it's a really tough choice. I mean, if you're really the hardcore driver who goes on the racetrack once in a while and loves to drive at the limit, then the GT3 is just right for you. For most Porsche customers, a 991 Carrera S or something is more fun, because you don't need to push it as hard to get to the fun factor. Here you really need to drive it at the limit, drive it like you stole it to really enjoy the car. So when we are driving here at like 3,000 RPMs, the car sounds terrible, you know, it's nowhere near as nice as a Carrera S, which is made for cruising. This car, you really need to push all the way to 9,000 RPM to get the best out of it. Which is again a lot of fun, but you know, not everyone wants that. When you're driving nicely, you know, at 120 kilometers per hour, 70 miles per hour, and want to enjoy a nice cruising sound, then a Carrera S is the better car for you, no question. But this is the ultimate weapon when driving fast. Let's see how this thing performs on the Autobahn. So much fun, unbelievable. That sound, I have goosebumps all over. It's unbelievable. Now, while the GT3's natural habitat is a racetrack or a twisty mountain road, it is working just fine on the German Autobahn. The continuous acceleration through the 7 perfectly set up ratios is the most addicting truck I can imagine. I once got the car up to 340 kilometers per hour, which is the absolute top speed you can reach with all that aerodynamic drag. So again, both the Carrera S and the GT3 are fantastic machines and both have their pros and cons. Personally, I wouldn't want to own a GT3 outside of Germany, since to me it is frustrating to drive this car slowly even it has all the comfort to do so. The Carrera, however, is the better all-rounder and is a lot more fun to cruise around in, even with speed limits. So I guess it is up to you now. However, since I'm in Germany with the GT3, please excuse me. But we are swapping it for this baby, the R8 V10 Plus 610 horsepower, exactly the same engine as in the Lamborghini Huracan.